Hello and welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. I'm Jack and I'm joined once again by Liam.
What's up?
And today we're going to be looking at episodes 3 and 4 of our Alan Wake series. Sort of thinking back to the last episode, Liam, I think you were overall positive, but there were definitely some negative things in there, weren't there?
Yeah, definitely. So I was just telling you how obviously it's a 6-part episode, excluding DLC here. And with these games, I usually tend to find they start really strong and they end really strong, and the middle can be kind of filler. So I would be really nervous about episodes 3 and 4, the middle two. Like that's just a bridge for the story. They might just try and put random content in there. But honestly, hands down, the best 2 episodes yet. Both, better than episodes 1 and 2, in my opinion. Obviously, excluding some moments. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. It set the bar high for episodes 5 and 6. It's not a perfect game. Like there's stuff that needs major tweaking and stuff that still made me rip my hair out. But in terms of the problems I had with the first 2 episodes, a lot of variety issues that I wanted and more puzzles over combat. Um, a lot of it was actually solved this episode. So hats off to Alan Wake. I know it's not like they listened to me because this is a past game we're talking about, but it almost is as if they did. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, all right then. All right, well we'll crack on with episode 3, shall we? So I suppose for those who haven't played it, or maybe they just want a refresh of what happened or what has happened in the plot in this episode, do you want to give us a quick rundown of episode 3 and what bits you thought worked and what didn't work?
Yeah, of course. So obviously I've played them very quickly back to back, so it always kind of like one murky game in a way. So, episode 3 is the one where I believe it starts with a car crash. I think I might be wrong there. And, you're running through the woods. And straight away, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the combat, of just the style of walking through a forest, having 2 taken thrown at me having to kill them, and then having 3 more taken thrown at me. Instantly, right off the gates, the first thing you have to do is get this generator to go that's slightly dodgy to have this massive torch shine on this gate, which you can't get through. And already it was different, and I was liking it. So yeah, a lot of stuff happens. You get it introduced as flashbangs, for example, which is my new favorite weapon. One that I wish I could literally just live off the flashbangs, but they were amazing. So yeah, it's got the moments such as meeting Nightingale. So going to the radio station, it's very much the ones where you're chased by the cops. So a lot of the Taken will be very cop themed. It's got the infamous bridge scene where a lot of the objects come to life and get thrown at you. I saw a lot of reviews online about this being an infamous scene that absolutely frustrates people. I believe there's the scene with the bulldozer that happens, quite an iconic scene. I did it first try, but I saw there's a trophy afterwards for defeating the bulldozer. I never did. The minute I opened the gate, I left it because I was on an ammo conservation mission. And yeah, then there's a bunch of driving round, and then yeah, you end up at sorry, my cat's biting my arm here. It's very unprofessional while I'm trying to film. So you end up at, I believe, a train depot as well as the mines. So yeah, it's a very good episode in my opinion. So like I say, I'm just going to address it off the bat. A lot of variety. We had the big bulldozer, which was such a nice change compared to just being peppered by the Taken. You had a lot of puzzles in the mines, for example, where you have to move the platforms to, create the passage for Alan Wake. And yeah, just a lot more exploration. I found it was a lot less linear in the map. You can drive around places. So yeah, what did you think of episode 3, Jack?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, especially because you start right at the trailer park, didn't you?
You do,
Um,
yeah.
you're going to that. I think the character's name's Rose, who's clearly been taken over by the Dark Presence, and and then shortly after, yeah, you're caught up by the police, and you've got this whole scene where you're running away. You've got you can see sort of the siren lights in the distance. You've got torchlights coming down. You're getting shot at. It's a very sort of. It all starts almost quite slow in the trailer park, but then the action quickly builds up and gets momentum, and then you've got this whole scene where the birds start attacking the helicopter that's looking for you, and it's just a really good way to introduce the episode, I think. And I'm pretty sure, is this the one where you end up at the lodge, or is that episode 4?
Which lodge is in the it
Where
ends where episode 3 ends where you have the flare with the tornado and it puts you in the water, and in episode 4 you wake up in Dr. Hartman's lodge.
Oh, so I'm thinking of episode 4. Right, yeah. So episode 3, yeah, you've got the whole mine sequence again. Like, you've got combat elements in there because, with the Taken, but on the whole, it's definitely sort of what you could consider a bit of a lull period, isn't it? In terms of combat, you're mainly sort of having to use your brain, climbing up and down ladders, moving platforms, and stuff like that. And it's just, as you mentioned, the variety is definitely welcome, because I think otherwise it could get a bit almost tedious and a bit too heavy-handed if they just focused on the combat elements of the game. What I would say, because I know you mentioned about using flashbangs, they were my favourite as well. And I suppose when you didn't have the flashbangs, the only thing you could really use when they sort of come up real close to you is the flares. And I'll say this now before I forget, but I don't know, when you use the flares, do you sort of keep hold of it and wave it in the air, or do you just drop it to the floor?
Oh, I'm awful with them. Because you want to hold them, don't you? But I always think I'm gonna throw them, so I tap it. But by tapping it, you drop one on the ground, right?
Yeah,
And you don't prolong them as much. So that's still something I'm trying to get better at, but not doing as good. But I do agree with what you say though. The flashbang's definitely the best weapon. The way you drop them and you can take out around 6 Taken at once, including the bigger ones as well. And you get some proper cool moments with it, especially when you dodge a few with the slow-mo moments and then you drop a flashbang. You can create some really cool sequences with that weapon, in my opinion.
yeah, that's right. And but yeah, sort of like with the flares, it's only because I've actually been sort of, because obviously I'm going back through, aren't I? I'm doing a Nightmare playthrough. For those listening, Nightmare is just the sort of the harder difficulty on the game. But yeah, I was sort of very used to sort of holding on to the flare and walking with it. And I know I was talking in a previous episode about one of my bugbears with like the generator, and how when you're on the generator sometimes and you're trying to power it up, you can actually get attacked by the Taken, and then because it takes so long to get off the generator and the fact that Alan Wake can't really run, you end up dying. And that's sort of, it's sort of really frustrating. But what I've found is that if you can just drop the flare next to the generator, and then they won't come near you while you're sort of putting the generator on and getting sort of the light. So if you didn't know that already, there's sort of like a little tip moving forward that I sort of found out for myself, because like that was starting to become a recurring problem for me with generators.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go right into my flaws with the 2 episodes, and it was mainly one in episode 3. So to be honest, episode 4, in my opinion, is the best one. I have very little issues with episode 4, if I'm being realistic. With episode 3, there were a few moments where I felt the ammo conservation style very much clashed with the save points. So, especially me having a blind playthrough, I wasn't aware of what was coming up, what was around the corner. So there would be moments where I would use a few fair too many bullets or flashbangs maybe. And then afterwards I would get a moment where a save point would happen, and then there would be an even bigger combat. And I wished I didn't have used so much ammo beforehand. There was one sequence where you get to a shed that has a shotgun inside it. the moment you get the shotgun, you get absolutely swarmed with about 10 taken, maybe around 15. 3 of them being the really giant ones. And I really struggled because I went into the scene with little ammo, and yeah, I guess the game constantly kept respawning me with the same amount, and I just really didn't have the ammo to fight them. I almost wanted to go 2 save points back to do the first fight again, as tedious as that sounds, just to conserve the ammo. I don't mind the ammo conservation style of the game. I love the fact it's not like Call of Duty or the later Resident Evils where you get all the ammo in the world and you can just easily take them out. You really have to be smart and savvy, and sometimes the best solution is just to run. But I guess this was a particular bit where I really struggled. I did it like 10 times and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a break. Turns out I just needed a good night's sleep because I came back the next day and did it first try. I didn't realize I could run somewhere else where there was a light and another checkpoint. Sometimes I think it's advised to not get order taken. You really have to save bullets. Sometimes the best solution is to run. But like I say, that is my only nitpick flaw. Again, with the combat, finding it tedious, and then the ammo conservation sometimes clashed with the save points. Otherwise, I thought it was a lot more brilliant. I didn't just feel like I was walking through a forest and just being swarmed with enemies. There was one scene where it felt like that, but that's a lot better than the first 2 games where I felt that was, half the episode almost. So yeah, episode 3, a massive step up. And in terms of the story as well, brilliant. The way it's unraveling. The characters are coming out more. You meet Nightingale in this episode. So yeah, what did you think of Nightingale, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, of all the characters, because I mean, I know obviously the Dark Presence is sort of the main antagonist, isn't it? But I suppose that's what Nightingale really is in this game, because he's this guy that, I don't know why, but he really has it out for you, doesn't he? He's sort of constantly trying to get you. I think I mentioned in the last episode as well, but he can't wait to like name drop writers.
Oh yeah, it gets ridiculous after a while.
Yeah, it's sort of he'll do it again in the next episode, at the start of episode 5. I think he gets like 2 writers in one sentence or something. But
it's at the point where I think it's more of a compliment. Like, I'd love to be called Lovecraft or Hemingway or Stephen King or Dan Brown. I'm like, those are good writers, mate. Come up with new material.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of what he really does for the plot, I'm not sort of oversold on the character. But I suppose where you've got a very supportive cast in Barry, the sheriff, I forgot her name, but the sheriff of the
Sarah, is it? I want to say Breaker, but I might be wrong.
Breaker, yeah, Sheriff
Breaker.
Yeah, you've got supporting characters. Obviously, the wife at the start. You had Rose, who was like sort of idolising Alan Wake.
Yeah.
You needed a character in there that was sort of gonna, almost go anti all of that. For a little bit of conflict, And
then in episode 4, you have the 2 old men with the Viking metal band.
Oh, of course, yeah, because you, I think you see them, don't you? You see them, in the lodge, and I think like the doctor guy says, "Oh yeah, like they're on their way out and stuff."
What I like as well is they're at the start at the diner. One of them tells the other one to play the song Coconut. And if you look as well, you've got the kidnapper who's on the boat with you. I almost want to play episode 1 again just to see all the recurring characters in the little town sequence at the start.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, the kidnappers on the boat. Obviously, you've got Pat Main, the radio guy. I think Rusty is sat in the diner as well. He's like talking to Rose when you first.
Oh, he is, isn't he? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. There's another character in the diner that will. I think her name's Cynthia Weaver. She plays an important part in the game later on as well. So it is good. I think, by the way, I'm pretty sure you haven't gone past the point yet. But did you play the song for them on like the little jukebox machine?
Yeah, I did. What do you mean in the diner in the first episode?
Yeah,
The coconut song. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you did. Right. So there's an achievement that you can get. I think you go back into the diner at some point. Hopefully, you haven't already passed it, but you can essentially play it again. And I think you have to like play it twice, and that gets you an achievement. So, yeah, if going forward you go back in the diner, then you can just get yourself an easy
Yeah.
trophy. But
I'll look out for that one actually. But also we're neglecting possibly the best character in the game with the most depth, and that's Alan Wake's cardboard cutout.
oh yeah, that bit. Did you see that bit? Yeah, it was episode 4 because they were at the farm when Barry goes behind the cardboard cutout and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm Alan Wake. I'm a best-selling,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's corny, but it's sort of almost like a palate cleanser. Like it's just sort of like that
Yeah,
comic relief after quite sort of an intense bit where you're sort of fighting them all off with the fireworks and stuff.
yeah. The bit
Uh,
where on the farm where he's like, "Oh, don't worry, your cutouts still alive," and Alan's just like, "Yeah, that was what my main concern. Like, while you're like getting killed by like the Taken." Yeah, nah.
yeah,
Actually, I thought the comic relief of Barry, like you said in the last episode, contrasts very well with the seriousness of Alan. And also to skip ahead to episode 4 a little bit, it's quite nice as well just to see the little drunken moment they had in the lodge. Nice bit of contrast. I thought these 2 episodes were paced very well actually. So I'll move on to episode 4 a little bit as well. What did you make of the opening sequence at the Hartman's institute or clinic, I guess is a better word to put it.
I remember when I first played it because you're just walking with him at the start, aren't you? And he's saying to you like, "Oh, your wife's actually dead, and because you're a writer, you've imagined this whole fantasy scenario where your work is trying to go against you and stuff." And it's quite a compelling thing. I remember sitting there first playing it thinking like this guy might have a point, like is everything that I'm playing, sort of harking back to a couple of Dark Pictures games, is it all in his head?
Yeah, another fake out ending.
Yeah. So yeah, I suppose that's when the for the first time the players sort of confronted with the reality that this all could just be all the horror, everything that you're experiencing isn't necessarily real, but it's essentially from someone who's suffered the loss of his wife, and this is his way of dealing with it. So yeah, in terms, it's a nice point for the player to sort of re-engage with the plot. Obviously, you're not doing a lot of fighting at that point. You're exploring the lodge. You're sort of seeing the other characters that are in there, and yeah, I really did enjoy that bit. What about you?
Yeah, no, I thought it was terrific because I actually had that as a theory early doors. I thought, what if she actually died and this is all in Alan's head? And I remember about the Hartman clinic at the start that the wife said you should go to. And I thought, what if he's already there? Like, I thought of it as a theory. And then I just was thinking that's going to be the big twist in episode 6. And they brought it to my attention in episode 4. And because that's so early, I was like, well, it's clearly not that then. And I think it's brilliant when they almost beat you to the punch. You build a theory in your head and then they say, oh, we're going to explore that, but it's not going to be it. So yeah, I thought it was really good. And like you say, the world of it all was like fascinating. And I think the closer you look at the Alan Wake world, the more beautiful and detailed it actually gets. So if you go into the clinic and you go to the person opposite you, I think his name might be Lane or the other person who's downstairs hiding behind the sofa. You can go into his room and he has all these sketches on this whiteboard of light versus dark, and the stuff he's telling you is actually all true. You've got the Vikings who obviously have a message for you. Even like I told you at the start of episode 3 in the trailer park, there's just this hot dog van or, a van with a poster on it that has things like famous dog, Mad Dog. And that's all, said by this one Taken in episode 1 that stuck out to me. So a lot of the stuff the Taken scream actually, have references in the game. And I absolutely love it when games take the time to put in really little details for you. So you actually get rewarded for just, spending time on it to be thorough. So yeah, the Hartman clinic, I thought it was brilliant. The way you could just walk around, the way Hartman tries to fool you, the way you can interact with other characters, and even up to the end, the way the dark starts consuming the lodge and you have to do all these little puzzles to get out. And then you have to go through a maze, which is pretty interesting. All the way to, like I say, it's, slightly varied, the fact you're not just walking through a forest, but you have to hold them off instead of killing them or running while Barry, sorts the keys out in this gate. I thought, maybe on par, to be honest, mate, with level 1, episode 1, for having such a strong opener. I was in love with it, everything about it, from the art, the music, to the style, the interactions. I was actually loving it so much, I was pretty sad to leave the clinic, I'm not going to lie. Like, the episode's strong, it ends, at the farm and stuff, and, it lulls a little bit in the middle, maybe. But yeah, for me, definitely the strongest episode yet, and that Hartman clinic area has a big responsibility for all that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's so right that you bring up about the maze. It actually reminds me a bit that sort of I've just played on Nightmare difficulty, and I found it so ridiculously tough because I almost had to go back in the maze just to sort of get ground. But you the bit where you wander around this corner, it's like one of sort of the main boss guys.
Yeah,
and
so.
he comes at you and you're getting attacked by birds as well. And I don't know, sort of a quick tangent on this, I don't know what your views on sort of the birds and sort of like, their function and how well sort of mechanically they are in this game, but I do find them frustrating at times. Maybe it's because I'm on a harder difficulty, but it feels like you really can't dodge the birds. Even if I hit the bumper to get out the way, they just pivot into me anyway, and then you've got this guy running after me as well. And yeah, that bit I found very intense. But yeah, what did you think sort of about the use of the birds in the game?
Yeah, because we haven't discussed them that much. Like, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of them. They're kind of just there, like, it's something different to the Taken, so I'll take that. But I do agree, you have to have a complete full battery, don't you, to actually tackle them. And if you have a bit of an empty battery, they just get you, even if you see them coming and you're aiming at them. And it does suck when you have to fight the Taken and them at the same time, because they might sneak at you from behind and there's no way. They're yet to kill me, but they have definitely just, annoyed me a lot by taking damage off of me while I'm trying to fight other people. I feel it might somewhat just be like a way to shoehorn like an Alfred, is it Hitchcock reference in there for, the classic Birds film or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. A nice little tip off there. There's been a lot of Stephen King, and now we're getting a bit of Hitchcock in there. But yeah, like, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like, it was pretty fun when you had to, go back to the lodge where you saved Barry in episode 2. But I don't know, there's almost no use for them anymore. Like, we've had it with the cable car, we've had it like with the gazebo against that big villain after the maze, like you said. There's one needless bit where you just walk across logs across this cliff edge and they just come at you, and it's like, do they need to be here? So no, I do know what you're saying.
Yeah, there's just moments, like you say, when you're walking across the log and they like hit you, and you can then, even though, I mean, it is something else that sort of, that besides the combat, that sometimes I feel like controlling Alan can be an absolute pain in the arse. And there are moments like that where you're sort of walking across and then they'll come and hit you or something, and then for some reason then walks off the edge, and then you sort of
I've done that a lot, yeah.
It's like, it's so frustrating. But yeah, all right. Well, I mean, the bit that I was sort of excited for you to see, I don't know whether it sort of lived up to expectations. I probably hyped it too much, but obviously at the Anderson farm, you're like thrown in out of nowhere into this moment where you're on the stage fireworks are going off. You've got all the ammo in the world. You've got flares, flashbangs, flare guns, shotguns, hunting rifles, you name it. And you're just holding off waves of Taken. What did you think about that particular bit?
Yeah, definitely good. Like, I felt for most of this game that I've been peppered in enemies and been given too little ammo. So it was very nice for the tables to be turned just once, where there was a lot of light, a lot of ammos, and few enemies, and it was just nice to be able to tackle them head on with like a lot of ammo for once. There are things I'd tweak about that scene. For example, I feel the Taken get on stage far too quickly, so I didn't have a chance to look at the ammo around me. I got to the end of the sequence when I finished it first time, and I saw that there was a box behind me I didn't even notice. There was like a bunch of flashbangs at the front of the stage I never even used, which would have made my life a lot easier. And it's like I said as well, another flaw actually, which I forgot to mention, is Alan Wake would not pick up the heavy duty flashlight first time. I could only do it at the end of the game, that sequence when I didn't need it. But in terms of the whole rock scene, yeah, it was brilliant. It combined so well with, the Viking farm afterwards, and, the two old folks who have this whole farm for themselves and this whole stage. Yeah, I'm all for variety in games, because it might be that we see too much of the forest in Alan Wake, so it's cool that it varies it up a bit. We get like the diner, we get to just walk through a mine at one point. There's different lodges, there's a train yard, there's a farm. So yeah, I was all for that scene, to be honest. I thought it was brilliant, yeah. But obviously you did say that it was like you were scared that you overhyped it. I wouldn't say you overhyped it, but it's like I said before, I think my favourite part so far is the Hartman bit. I was so obsessed with that opening scene. I thought it was classic that I still miss that bit. And I reckon it's such a high bar for me that I'm going to get to the end of the game and I might point that out as my favourite part of the game.
Yeah, quite possibly, because I suppose what is it about that particular bit that's drawn you in? Is it the fact that it is quite story heavy? Is it the fact that sort of the pace is dropped and it's just sort of, you're taking in the surroundings?
Yeah, I think a combo of that. So it reminded me very much of Assassin's Creed, where you're not Altair or Ezio, but you're playing as Desmond in the real world, and the pace drops. And because Alan Wake's a beautiful world, you've got these beautiful mountainscapes in the background, lovely music, and good narration. And sometimes I felt it needed more of it, and it was nice just to drop the pace, lose yourself in the world of Bright Falls. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the town. And yeah, just chat to people, explore a little bit. I definitely wanted more of that. And from a personal point of view, I just think, the setting was really nice. The way you're in this lodge, all these characters are bouncing around. And I just thought it was a wonderful, bit of pacing and storytelling, to be honest. And like I say, from the personal thing as well about how I thought that would be the ending, for them to throw that at me in episode 4 and then tell me, psych, this isn't how it goes. This guy's kidding you. I just thought that was like clever. It outsmarted me. And when I get outsmarted, with a twist like that, I don't look at it in anger. I look at it really impressed. So, hats off to Alan Wake for fooling me with that one, to be honest.
Yeah, I suppose obviously you've had a theory sort of, wiped off the floor now. Do you have any other thoughts going forward where you think the story's going to go? Sort of any theories moving forward about what's going to happen to characters?
It's difficult to say because episode 4 strongly revealed the ending somewhat when Alan Wake has a drunken dream on the moonshine. Pardon me. So he basically remembers what happens at the lodge. He remembers himself crawling out, the dark presence telling him to write, and then Alan Wake clocking on and then writing an escape into the story. And that's why the manuscript's scattered everywhere. Like, I don't have any reason to believe that's not true. I think that is the reality. There's probably more layers on top of that. So yeah, I guess I'm not really building any theories anymore. I'm just kind of, seeing how that unravels. I don't know what's going to happen with my cliffhanger, which ended on Nightingale holding Alan Wake at gunpoint, saying, yeah, this is your fault. I think he has a bigger part to play, and I'm intrigued to see what that is. But yeah, I think the next episode's got stuff to do with the Moose Fest, and weirdly, I'm hoping for a bit more like episode 4, where I can, instead of running through forests being with the Taken in combat, I kind of want to just go around this big town, and I'm hoping they throw a lot of AIs at me, and yeah, there'll be a nice change of pace. But theory-wise, nothing going forward, mate. I'm just going to take it in, to be honest. Obviously, you've played the game, so you can't spoil too much, but did you very much guess things that were correct? Did the game take you by surprise? How did it fare for that sort of wise?
Um, it's a very boring answer, but it's very much playing out with what you've said. Um, you know me, I like twists, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, when you're confronted with a story and you think, oh, you know, how's this going to pan out? Is there going to be some sort of revelation? Yeah, this episode sort of blows that out the water. That episode 4 I'm talking about blows that out the water. Um, so at this point, you're just thinking, okay, so Alan's up against the dark presence. You're really at this point, I was just curious as to see how it would end. Would it end with, you know, sort of a happy ending where, you know, he writes his way out of the story and he gets his wife back, or is it going to be a more darker ending where everyone dies and stuff? So, I mean, I suppose I wasn't really making any predictions at this point, but I was just curious about how they were going to sort of wrap things up, because I also knew that, you know, sort of when I was first playing it, that the ending of episode 6, you can sort of see that as the ending of the game, but I knew that there was 2 DLC episodes that essentially expand the story onwards. So it's not probably until the end of DLC 2 that you might have a more satisfying conclusion. I don't know, but
Okay.
yeah, that's where I was with it, mate, when I was playing it.
Oh, brilliant.
Um, but yeah, all right, okay. Well, that's episode 3 and 4 of our Alan Wake series. So I suppose in terms of the muddling up my words, trajectory, you'd say that it's definitely gone up since episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, definitely. Story-wise, it's drawn me in more. There's a lot more variety in the combat, and there's more puzzles, which is what I wanted to see. They're not the strongest ones, but they don't need to be. But yeah, no, I'm very much hooked. I am intrigued to see what episodes 5 and 6 throw at me, and the DLC. But yeah, it's not a game that is absolutely wrapped me up the way the Supermassive games or Quantic Dreams games do. But it's a very nice change, you know. This isn't kind of the game I really play, or a game that, you know, I was excited to play either. But yeah, it's quite a nice little thing, you know, to plow through. Um, Even if it's, you know, like I say, the more puzzles, or the fact that I'm shining lights at objects which are being controlled by the darkness and being thrown at me. Yeah, everything I complained about in episode 1 is pretty much being answered. Like I say, things I'd tweak still, but you know, no game's going to be absolutely perfect the way I want it to be. But I'm just really impressed and happy that it's gone up from what I wanted. So yeah, definitely.
All right, okay. We'll wrap it up there then. Just from what you said, what you wanted in episode 5, I think you'll be happy initially from what you've said, in terms of sort of what you want on the back of episode 4. But yeah, we'll have to see how the rest of it plays out. Obviously, when we next speak, you're going to have finished episode 6, which was obviously the original ending before the DLC comes out, and then you'll be able to say whether you find it satisfying or not, whether you care or, you know, don't really care that much about it. And yeah, we'll just have to see then what you think of it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, so I guess I'll see you in the next podcast then.
Yep. All right. Catch you later.